Effective communication is what it takes to be a success now. What I want to do today is take some of the techniques and strategies that we use in marketing and sales and public relations, which I think is some of the most effective kinds of communication, and apply it not only to sales and marketing, but into our everyday lives. And I think if we do that, we accomplish two goals. One, we learn how to be more effective and successful for our business, and two, more successful and effective in our personal lives. And that's what we want to do. So what does it take? One, we have to think differently than normal people. Normal people don't want to take any risks. Status quo. You have to think, you hear the cliche outside the box. Well, we got to go way outside the box. What we're looking for is thinking that solves the problem without throwing a bunch of money at it, using your creativity. Now, don't get concerned. Every time I say the word creativity, a lot of you get concerned, I know. You think you have to be a musician or an artist to be creative. I think the most creative thing I've done so far is my 2002 tax return. So I want you to use your creativity to solve a problem. Let me give you an example. One of the very first examples of this form of thinking in a street fighter's perspective is one of the very first clients I ever had. A gentleman by the name of Bruce Wisman of Wisman Appliances in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He goes, Jeff, I have a serious problem. I go, what's that? He goes, I'm one of 5 major competitors here within like a 3 or 4 5-minute driving time of my store. I'm competing against the big guys, the big box retailers. I have these 4 major competitors. They come into my store. I'm the only local guy. They spend all their time talking to my salespeople. They get all the great information. Then they leave. They say, well, we want to think about it. We never see them again. And they start shopping the competition. Is there anything we can do to keep these people from shopping around so much? Or better yet, if I could just be the last place they shop, I know I got half a chance of them buying from me. What can I do? Well, we had him do a number of different things. One of which was to fill one of his freezers with half gallons of ice cream. A customer would come into his store, get a price on a refrigerator, a freezer, a TV set, waste a half hour of their time going over all the features, all the benefits, and say, well, we want to think about it, which is customer ease from going to look for another deal. Before they left, the sales force was instructed to give that customer absolutely free a half gallon of ice cream just for stopping in. Well, naturally, their hearts melted with enthusiasm for the store. They get in their car on a hot July day, ready to shop 5 or 6 other competitors when they realize they have a little problem on their hands. They'd immediately go home, put that half gallon of ice cream in the freezer. It got them out of the momentum of shopping a competition, and as a result, according to an article in the Wall Street Journal, Bruce's sales increased that year by 13.5%. This is an example of what I mean by that elegant kind of solution to a problem, looking for the right way to do that. The reason it's so important to be effective communicators is because communication, effective communication, comes into play with every aspect of your life. Not just the business, but every aspect. Whether we're talking to a customer, a coworker, a boss, an employee, a vendor, a friend, a relative. It doesn't so work with children, but about everybody else. Effective communication is the key. Now, the problem is there's so much communication out there that people tune most of it out. The advertising people call it clutter, and it's getting worse. Every year it's getting worse. I've read statistics that say that the average person is exposed to over 17,000 messages a day. Now that's everything from broadcast television and radio and billboards, and wherever you look you'll see logos and advertisements, but also emails and Twitter and you look around everywhere. You're constantly bombarded by advertising, by messages, by sales presentations, and guess what? Out of all that exposure, the average person will only remember 2 or 3 messages a day, which means the vast majority of all that communication, all the money spent for advertising, the time selling, the effort in trying to get somebody to do something at work, all that is wasted, the vast majority of it. They tune it out. And the reason is the brain cannot absorb that much information. It'll only let a few pieces in. Matter of fact, to illustrate this, I want to do a little experiment. I need a volunteer, someone fairly close, and I pay big bucks for this. Who would like to help me out? Okay, we have a volunteer right here. Why don't you come up on stage? No rush.
No rush.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
And your name?
Brandon.
Brandon. Brandon, say hi to the group.
Hello, group.
Group, say hi to Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
Sounds like a meeting I was at last week. Okay, this is an exercise just for Brandon. Nobody help him out. He's going to have to do this on his own. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And in 30 seconds, I want you to name for me 25 different brands of toothpaste. Go.
Colgate, Listerine, I think. Colgate. I don't even know what kind I use. No, you can stay here.
Well, it's okay, because I just realized I don't have a second hand on this watch. But this is pretty typical of what happens when you ask somebody to give you a bunch of names within a certain category, whether it's toothpaste or detergent or whatever it might be. After the second or third time, they can't remember. The toothpaste people are spending millions and millions of dollars to get Brandon to remember their names. Guess how much effectiveness they get from that? He can't even remember the one he uses. Okay, so people tune it out. I'm going to give you a free gift. I have, you have your choice. For helping me out here, you can either have, I have 2 books. One is Street Fighter Marketing, the original, or my brand new book, All the Reasons to Love Obamacare, which is 140 blank pages. Your choice. You can have both. Okay, let's give Brandon a big hand. It's a real book, by the way. It's on Amazon.com. It took me at least a week to write it. So people don't want to hear your messages. They don't want to get your sales calls. They don't want to get your direct mail piece. They don't want to see your advertising. They don't want your email. They just don't want it. So we have to do things to make an impact. And that's what I want us to do, become effective communicators. Think differently. Think in an unusual way. And that's what we're going to work on today. Use your street smarts, which means you know the territory. You know how the other people think. Understand why people act the way they do. Let me give you an example. Very successful stockbroker. He used to drive to work every day on the East Coast. Before he'd get to work, he'd have to pay a toll. Before this stockbroker would pay his toll, the first thing he'd do is look in his rearview mirror. If he'd see a Cadillac, a Lincoln, a Mercedes, any kind of car of that stature, he not only would pay his toll, he'd pay the toll of the person behind him. Took out one of his business cards, write a little note on the back, hand it to the toll booth attendant, say, please take care of my friend back here. And he drives on off. The guy in the Mercedes pulls up, ready to pay the toll. The guy in the booth says, sir, you can go right on through. Your good friend took care of it for you. My good friend, what are you talking about? I don't know this guy. Hands him the business card. The note on the back said, if you think this is an interesting way of getting your attention, think of all the great things I could do for your portfolio. He got more new clients off a 90-cent toll than all the expensive marketing and advertising his company ever did for him. I know what you're thinking. I'm not a stockbroker. I don't pay a toll to get to work. What does this have to do with me? Well, one of the basic concepts of this form of effective communication, what I call Slutsky on success, it just has a nice feel to it, Slutsky on success, is you find things that work for other people, adapt it, modify it, improve it, and make them work for you. There's nothing new under the sun, which in itself is not a new idea. We modify it. I call it creative stealing. And we do this as much as we can, and it's exactly what Shriver Harrison did. Shriver liked that example, liked that story, but had nothing in common with an East Coast stockbroker. He has a lawn and garden service in San Antonio, Texas. And he has a lawn and garden service. What does he have in common with him? But it got him thinking. It got him thinking in the right direction. They don't have toll booths there, but they have something in the downtown area tremendously annoying to many of his customers and potential customers. Parking meters. So he gets this idea. He creates a promotional piece that looks remarkably like the local parking ticket, same size, same color. And when he or any of his staff are in the downtown area, they take these little promotional pieces and put them under everybody's windshield wipers. Now, what happens to most advertising, most marketing? It gets tossed out. But if you go back to your car after a tough day of shopping in downtown San Antonio and see something that looks like a parking ticket underneath your windshield wiper, you're going to notice it. You may not be happy about it, but you're going to notice it. They grab it and they look at it, and the headline read, relax, this is not a parking ticket. We just happened to be going by your car, noticed that the meter was ready to run out or already done so. To save you the hassle and a $10 fine, we've taken the liberty of putting just a little bit of money in the meter for you, compliments of Shriver's Lawn and Garden Service. Well, he got a lot of attention. A lot of people thanked him. He got a lot of phone calls, including one from the San Antonio Police Department. See, it turns out they have a policy not to ticket the same car twice, so it was costing the city a lot of money. So one day, Shriver gets an irate phone call from the sergeant who's telling him about this problem. He goes, hey, I talked to my attorney before we did the promotion. He assured me it was perfectly legal. He goes, Mr. Harrison, it may be perfectly legal, but need I remind you that you do have 27 registered vehicles on my streets. And I'm sure if my guys want to take their time and look real close, okay, calm down, calm down. Then he remembered something from his successful communication process training he had. He started asking a little more questions, started listening a little bit more, and through that investigation, discovered what the issue was. He says, let me ask you another question, sir. If I was to change the color of my promotional piece from red to yellow, do you think your officers could tell the difference between the two? Well, of course they could. And if they could tell the difference between my promotional piece and your parking ticket, our problem was solved. Is that a fair statement? He goes, I guess so. I said, fair enough. So even in the face of potential disaster of an approach, he was able to get a successful solution to the problem. So keep taking it to its logical step. Now, we have to deal with competition. Competition comes in many, many forms. And the big guy can compete with the small guy, and the small guy can compete with the big guy. It just depends on what situation you're in. But usually the little guy has more of a challenge than the big guy. My favorite example is of all time. This happened years ago in Denver, Colorado. A mom and pop pizza chain, 3 units. Now back then, their main form of advertising, because all they did was deliver pizzas. That was it. That was their business. Their main form of advertising was this thing. I don't know if you remember this from your history books, a thing called the Yellow Pages. And they had a 1/4-page ad in the Yellow Pages, and that was their main form of advertising, because back then, if you wanted a pizza delivered, you'd look in the Yellow Pages under pizza delivery, and there they were on page 3, 1/4 page. It worked fine. Business was great. Then Domino's Pizza, from fairly close to here, started their major expansion. And they go into Denver. They sell a lot of franchises. Then they start advertising with television and billboards and coupon drops. And this guy cannot compete. They even buy a full-page Yellow Page ad. First time you ever saw one in Denver with red and blue in the ad. It cost a fortune on a monthly basis. But not only that, who gets the primary spots in the Yellow Pages in a section? The biggest ad. So naturally, Domino's gets page 1 of the pizza section when a new book comes out. On the back of that, 4 other competitors, and our poor mom and pop get shoved deeper into the section. It's page 5, which means people had to keep turning pages. They weren't doing it. They were not doing it. As soon as that new Yellow Page book came out, his sales started to drop. What do you do? How do you compete? He was thinking. He was thinking differently. Within 10 days, he runs a campaign and says, bring us the Domino's Yellow Page ad out of the phone book. Into my stores, I'll give you 2 for $1 pizzas. People were ripping them out and bringing them in. They were going in the phone booths and ripping them out. You couldn't find a Domino's Yellow Page ad anywhere in Denver. Domino's was upset. They had to pay for that ad for another 11 and a half months. Now, usually when I tell a story, there's a little chuckle, and I think rightfully so. It shows the spirit and creativity of a street fighter, except about 6 months ago I'm in Toronto, dressing a group of Domino's pizza managers. No sense of humor. But they are starting to use the idea as a preemptive strike. Matter of fact, there's another example of competition. I don't know if you read about this one. About 3 or 4 years ago, there was a McDonald's, it's still there, on a peninsula in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Well over twice the national average of what a McDonald's does. Well, Wendy's finds out about it. Wendy's is based in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. Wendy's finds out about it and says, we got to be there. I mean, we could do 25% market share, make a fortune on that unit. We cannot lose. So Wendy's works with a franchisee who buys the unit, decides to actually build his unit right next door to the McDonald's. Now he's getting real excited. He goes, boy, this is going to be great. He's planning his retirement already. He goes, you know what? I'm going to put some money into a massive grand opening. On a single day, we're going to kick this baby, and then I'm going to settle in, and I'll be out of the business in 5 years down in Miami, where I always wanted to live. So he's settled in a third. Life is good. On the day of the grand opening of this brand new Wendy's, he got such a bad reputation from that grand opening experience, the unit was forced to shut down 90 days later. See, now that McDonald's guy was thinking differently. How much did it cost him to solve that problem? He was creative. He understood the reason people would buy from him and was able to analyze the situation. He knew the lay of the land. He learned. He had the street smarts. He learned from that, and offered a solution that was elegant and solved the problem. Now, just because it's McDonald's, don't always assume they do the right thing. He had a buddy in another part of the country who was so proud of their new Braille menu, he had it laminated. And that's what I mean, that common sense is not so common. We have to really think about what we do before we act. We have to think it through before we act. So as I give you these examples, I'm trying to start those creative juices flowing, but at the same time, we've got to pull a little bit back so we don't go over the edge. For example, years ago, there was a restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, very, very successful restaurant. The problem was his Tuesday sales were soft. No matter what he did, Tuesdays just never were any good. And he was even thinking of shutting down on Tuesdays. It was so bad. He's thumbing through the local phone book, and he comes across a local person with the name of John Wayne. He gets an idea. He calls up the local Mr. Wayne and says, "John, I selected your name at random out of the local phone book. You've just won a dinner for two at my restaurant next Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. John was excited. Had never won anything before in his life. He's actually living on a farm in the next county over. Said he and his wife would be there at 8 o'clock. He was very excited. Next day, a huge banner goes out in front of the restaurant. John Wayne to dine here next Tuesday. Talk about a viral campaign. John Wayne to dine here in 3 days. In 2 days, he was teasing them. Finally, John Wayne to dine here tonight. They had the busiest happy hour in the history of the restaurant. On a Tuesday, a busy happy hour. By 6 o'clock, there was a waiting line. You couldn't get inside the restaurant. 7 o'clock, it was jam-packed. There was a 2-hour waiting line. 8 o'clock hits. You can barely hear yourself think inside. An announcement over the loudspeaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. John Wayne. Now, here's John, who has no idea what's going on. He's standing on a little riser next to the entrance of the kitchen, holding hands with his wife, who they did wear shoes. And a foul spot was sweeping across the crowd, ends up on him, and from all the craziness where you could barely hear yourself think, the place went completely silent. It was at that moment the manager said to himself, "I might have gone a little bit too far." Now, in that moment, his life was in the balance. Fortunately, people realized what had happened. They burst out laughing. They ushered John to a seat. They were asking him for his autograph. They were taking pictures with him. They were having a wonderful time. Now, he made a lot of money that night, but what if it would have tipped the other way? Was it worth the risk? In my opinion, no. He got away with it at one time. So I'm just saying, be careful. It's like my brother. My brother pulls these kind of things once in a while. He was a head of a committee, this volunteer program that he was working on, had like 6 or 7 committee members, and he needed one more meeting just to get everything taken care of, vote on it, be done with it, and they weren't showing up to the meetings. He tried everything. So finally, he sent out an announcement to all 7 committee members, "Come to the meeting, and I'll give you each a free chicken dinner." And when they got there, they got little packets of dried corn. Was that a smart move? No. That's my brother. So I'm just saying, you got to use some common sense. You have to use some common sense. So what is the key issue here? Well, one of the main key issues of all time, let me move this ahead a little bit. What does it take? First of all, how do you define success? What is success? How can we achieve it if we don't know what it is we want? See, my idea of success has changed over the years. When I was younger, I had a different idea of what success was. Then I got married. I had some children. You may have heard of that in the introduction. Then I had more children. They kept coming. I don't know where they come from. Anymore, we got to start throwing them back in. So my idea of success has changed, so I have to adapt my approach to deal with that. Now, here's a great definition from one of my favorite movies, Rocky. I just want to go to distance. This is the night before he's going to have his big boxing match. He realizes he can't beat Apollo Creed. So he sets his goal. His idea of success is to go the distance, not win the fight, just go the distance. Where Apollo's idea of success was to drop him in six rounds. Now, Apollo wins the fight, but he didn't drop him in 6. Who was successful in their own mind? I think Rocky got the better of it in that case because he defined what was important to him and went after it, not what everybody else wanted. Then there's knowledge versus execution. You can get all the great ideas. Where most people fail is in the execution of the ideas. There's a lot of great ideas out there. I have some, other people have some. You're going to hear a lot of great ideas from a lot of people. But if you don't act on them, if you don't make them happen, if you don't execute properly and effectively, all the best ideas in the world are useless. So fewer ideas, more execution, successful execution of those ideas. That will help drive your success. And I think the big key to success overall is communications, like I mentioned before. We have to communicate. We have to communicate effectively, because no matter what we do, if we don't do that, we don't get anything done. So what's the secret to it? I think it's this. I adopted it from sales. Salespeople adopted it from psychiatrists. Now it's coming back full circle. You don't sell an idea, a product or a service by talking. Product knowledge isn't going to do it. People talk too much. They talk too much information. The way to be successful is to listen and ask questions. Mostly asking questions, listening, and there's a third component, and that is interpreting the real meaning behind the answers, because they don't often mean what they say. So you have to get good at interpreting. So those are the three elements I think it takes to become successful at just about anything you choose to go after. Asking questions, listening, and interpretation of the answers. Why do I say that? Well, a sales trainer many years ago once told me the average person thinks at about 1,200 words a minute, while the average person speaks at about 250 words a minute. Except in parts of Columbus, it's about 125 with gusts-ups of 150. But on average, people are thinking a lot faster than they talk. So what does this mean? Let's say you're making an important presentation, and you're talking. What is the other person doing while you're talking? They're thinking. And what are they thinking about? How wonderful you are, how great your product is, why they should vote this way, why they should buy into this concept, why they should volunteer for this. No, remember, they're thinking 5, 6, 7 times faster than you're talking, and they got all these other issues and outside influences. The worst thing you can do to get somebody to buy into whatever it is you have is to let them think. Never, ever let the other person think. Instead, let them do the talking, you do the thinking. There's another element of this. In order to be successful in communication, you have to be credible. People want to trust first. If they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And when I mean buy anything, ideas, concepts, products, services, whatever it might be. There has to be an element of credibility. And when you ask questions and listen, you start to develop that level of rapport, that credibility with the other person. I mean, think about the people in our society that have that kind of credibility, like your own doctor, your own physician that you've been going to for a while. That doctor has credibility with you. Why? Because the doctor asks questions. I mean, what if you went to a doctor for the first time? You didn't fill out any forms, you didn't talk to anybody, you're there in the room, the examination room, the doctor walks in, takes one look at you and says, well, I'm going to put you on 3 medications, give you 4 injections, and I'm going to schedule surgery from a week from Tuesday. How are you going to feel about this particular doctor? Might make you a little nervous. Why? Because a doctor's offering a solution, doesn't know what the problem is. But what does a doctor do? The doctor asks questions. What's the first question the doctor asks?
How are you doing today?
Do you have insurance? You qualify, they start asking more questions. Then they say, why are you here today? I have a pain. Where's the pain? It's in my stomach. Is it a sharp pain or a dull pain? It's a sharp pain. When did it begin? A couple weeks ago. Did you eat anything unusual a couple weeks ago? Well, I did swallow 14 roofing nails. Aha! So then after this series of questions, the doctor has an idea of what might be the issue and then can start working on a course of action. And that's what I want you to be able to do. So I want you to, like, when you're selling, I want you to be like a doctor, like a highly trained surgeon performing a procedure we like to call a cachectomy. And you do this by asking the questions and listening. But the most important reason is that through the questions and the answers is you learn their hot buttons. Hot buttons are the key to everybody's success. If you can find the other person's hot buttons in any situation, home, office, it doesn't matter where. If you can find their hot buttons and push them just right, you will get what you want. It's that simple. But the problem is this. People don't buy based on logic. They always back it up with logic. They buy based on emotions. Decision-making is emotional. First of all, people don't like to make decisions, number one. They just will not. Look at somebody like at dinner tonight. If you went with somebody at dinner and they looked at a menu with more than 2 choices, it looked like they were in physical pain. Ooh, which one should I get? Whenever there's choices, people have to make decisions. People do not like to make decisions. Decision-making is painful. How do we know this? There's been studies done. They take people, they hook them up to these computers, electrodes and everything, and they have them do decision-making. And they check it. And they find out that decision-making has a certain level of activity in the brain. And then they do the same thing, hook them up again, and take a big needle, sterilize it, and jam it in their arm. And they have physical pain, and guess what? It was almost identical. So, next time you're saying, hey, do you want it or not? It's like giving them physical pain. That's why people don't want to make decisions. So you do this by asking questions to find out what emotional drivers are going on that's going to cause you to get what you want. Asking questions allows you to uncover the emotional reasons they will buy. They'll eventually tell you what it's going to take to get a yes if you ask the right questions and listen carefully. And not just yes or no questions. We've got to pull the emotions out because everybody is different. Let me give you an example. Several years ago, my best friend is leaving town for the weekend. He goes, Jeff, I want you to do me a favor. I go, anything. What is it? I want you to borrow my car and go out and have a good time for the first time in your life. My best friend thinks I'm boring. My best friend's an accountant. Now, at the time, he was driving this very fast sports car. And he was in love with this car. And this is something I really did not understand. Everything was about his car and how fast it was. And he just was in love with this car. At the time, I don't know if you remember this car. I was driving an Oldsmobile 98 Regency. It's a big car. Sleeps 12. And he's talking about how fast it is, and you got to take it out, and you got to floor it and feel the acceleration. I have no idea what he's talking about, because in my car, when I floor it, 4 days later, I accelerate. That's what I'm used to. But he talks me into it, and here I am in Columbus, Ohio, with my buddy's car. I'm driving around in it, and I don't get it. He's in love with this car, and it's low to the ground, so it's hard for me to get in and out, and it's noisy. And it's bumpy, and I just don't get it. So here I am on 270. I go past the bypass there, and nobody's around, so I decide to floor it. And I floor it, and I get the shock of my life. The squealing sound is killing my ears. Black smoke's flying out the back. I'm shoved back into the seat like someone hit me in the chest with a sledgehammer. This car explodes forward like a rocket ship, and a big smile forms on my face. I never experienced power like this in my life. My heart's pounding. I can't believe it. And I'm getting excited. I'm going into fantasies. I'm in an F-16. I'm shooting people down. And then I go into a Star Trek fantasy. I need more power, Scotty. I kind of hope you come. And now I'm starting to go faster, and people are starting to get in my way, and I have to maneuver around them. I barely turn the wheel. I'm in the next lane. In my car, when I want to change lanes, it's but here, I'm passing people left and right, and I'm waving at them, and they're gesturing back. And I decide right then I'm going to buy a car just like this one. Now, I'm a qualified buyer. We're going to talk about it. After the break, we're going to talk about how we qualify people. But I'm a qualified buyer. All the elements are there for me to buy. I'm the decision maker. The checkbook's in my pocket. I want it. I need it. I'm going. And I go to 3 dealerships, and the same thing happens every time. Some guy in a plaid polyester sport coat with a big wide tie that stops right about here comes out, and the first thing they do is they pop the hood and show me the engine. I'll let you in a little secret. I have no idea what the engine does. I don't know, and they're excited. They're talking about overhead things and injection things, and they're giving me all this technical information. I don't care about that. All I want from this car is to go fast and look cool. That's what I want to buy. I don't want the hood up. I want it down. It looks faster that way. But I can't bring myself to buy the car, even though I want it, because they're not selling me what I want to buy. They're talking about all this technical stuff. They're not finding out what it is I want out of this thing. So I keep shopping. This goes on for about a month, and I keep going around. I remember 30 days in, Saturday afternoon, I go to the one dealership closest to my house. I'm there in a Street Fighter T-shirt and blue jeans. Probably didn't look like a qualified buyer, didn't care. I'm there. There's the car in the showroom. I went over to it. I had visitation rights by then. The sales manager, whose name was Dale, comes over. He says, I've seen you in here 3 or 4 times talking to one of my guys. Can I ask you a question? I go, sure. What is it? What is it about this car that keeps you coming back? Well, I got kind of excited because I got to talk about something I was interested in. Well, I got a buddy that's got a car just like this one, and it was fast, and it handled great, and it was fast, and people were staring at me. It was fast, and it was so much fun, and it was fast. And he asked another question. Do you like to drive fast? Oh, yeah. He goes, real fast? Real fast. He's getting me more excited. And I'm telling him more about how I like it. And he says, can you keep a secret? I go, yes. He said, I had this car out, the one you're looking at, took it out the other day. Just outside of 270, I punched it. Guess how fast I was going? How fast? Looks over and says, 110. Wow. Then I shifted into second. And he goes, not only that, everybody who saw me in this car thought I was cool. I looked right at him and said, I'll buy it. Now I'm ready to buy the car. He's got exactly what I want. He's got fast, he's got cool. I said, okay, let's do the sticker thing. I'm ready. He goes, Jeff, I don't think this is the car for you. So what are you talking about? You got a price, I got a price. Come on, let's go. No, listen, I don't think this is the car for you. Come on, here's a $50 bill. Talk to the guy behind a curtain. I know how it works. I want to leave today with the car, which is not a very good negotiation strategy. He goes, calm down. I want to show you something. Takes me into a side room. Set of double doors, side room. It's like a little prep room or whatever. There's one car in this room. Same exact car I'm looking at. Same color. Chernobyl red. He looks at the car, he looks at me and says, $5,000 more. I don't know how much this one is yet, but that one's $5,000 more. I want to know why. Takes me around to the rear end of the car, points a little sticker on the left-hand side. Turbo. I go, what does it do? I don't know, but you go faster and you look cooler. I bought it. I was a little oppressed about a month after I bought the car. I was driving north of the Cleveland and my sticker fell off. But these guys are so wonderful, they were willing to replace the sticker for $50. I was so excited, I bought 2 stickers. I put one on my wife's minivan. So this guy not only got the sale, but he got a fairly significant add on the sale. What did he do the other people didn't do? He listened. He asked questions. He understood emotionally what it is I was trying to buy. And that's the difference between people who are successful and people who are not. We listen. We gather the information. That information gathering is critical. Matter of fact, there's a technique you can use that allows you to gather a lot of information, and it's real easy. You may have heard of it. It's called the echo technique. It's very simple. You're talking to somebody, and you want more detail. You got to get some more emotions out of them. You got to pick their brain. So all you do is you wait till they're done talking, take the last word they say, 2 words, 3 words at the most, and repeat it back to them in the form of a question, and they'll rattle on with more detail. So it'll be something like, oh, I'm going to be driving up to Detroit. Detroit, I'm going to be doing a presentation. Presentation? Yeah, a bunch of neat people. Neat people? Well, some of them are neat. Anyway, so you keep them talking. I remember I learned this from a buddy of mine down in Orlando. Taught this to me years ago. And I was so excited, the echo technique. I'm looking for someone to practice on. And I'm flying back to Columbus, and I remember my girlfriend is going to pick me up at the airport, who later became my wife. I thought, perfect. Let's try it out on her. So I get into the car. She's driving. We take off. I looked at her, and I asked a question, how was work today? Which she really liked because I'm paying attention. Usually I just stare off into space and ignore her. But how was work today? Ooh, work was crazy. They sent this guy in from the main office to do a quarterly report. Quarterly report? Oh, they send him every 3 months to make sure we had our projections. Projections, oh, the last quarter was a little soft. We had our projections. We got a big bonus. Bonus, whole department's going on a big trip. I kept it going for 20 minutes all the way home. I didn't say more than 15 words. I knew everything about her life, and she knew nothing about mine, which is pretty much what I wanted. She thought I was the most warm, sensitive, caring individual in the world. 1 year later, I closed the sale. Seven months after that, we had some spin-off business. Then some more spin-off business. And about 4 years after that, buyer's remorse. Now, the problem with the echo technique, though, is if you do it too long, they're going like after the 7th or 8th echo, they're going to look at you and go, what's wrong with you? Are you an echo? So you have to alternate it with another technique that works the same exact way. So you're talking to someone, you want more information, you just cock your head to one side and go, oh, And they'll, oh, yeah, yeah, and they rattle on with more detail. So you echo, 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 oh, echo, 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 oh, echo, 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 oh. Then right at the climax of the conversation, you look at them and go, no, and they go, oh, yeah, and you bring them back. So about 15 minutes, you have all this great information, you're ready to get the decision. That's how effective communications work. We listen, we ask questions, we interpret what they're saying. Who do you think are the best people in the world at asking questions to get what they want, to be successful? If you had to pick one group of people, who are they?
Children.
Children. Absolutely right. Now, I happen to be an expert at this. I have a total of 6, including the triplets. Let me tell you a story about that, by the way. Talk about effective communications and negotiations. When I married my wife, she wanted at least 1 child. That was the deal killer if I couldn't provide that. So in the negotiations, but the way she presented it, the words we used, here's how she presented it. How about we have as many children as we can have until you turn 50? Well, I was 49 at the time, and I did the math really quick, and I figured, how bad could it be? Little did I know they were running a special. Buy 1, get 2 free. So you have to be very careful how you phrase your requests. But kids are the best at it. And why is that? I mean, I remember, I watched my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's now a lot older. I remember when she was, I think it was 6 years old. It was a half hour before dinner. And she goes up to her mother, and she asks a closing question, a question designed to get a decision. Mommy, can I go across the street to play with Aaron? Aaron was her good friend. Mommy objects. Mommy says, well, dinner's in a half hour. I want you to stay put. You can play with her tomorrow. So notice that Mommy is responding with a statement and with logic. What does Amanda, my oldest girl, do at that point? Looks back, asks another question. Why? Well, I said, dinner's in a half hour. I want you to stay put. You can play with her tomorrow. Amanda comes back with another question. Why? Because I said so. Why? Because I'm the mommy. Why? And I counted the exchanges. It was brilliant. 16 times. Most people quit after 2 or 3, not my kid. 16 times. And after the 16th, why? She goes, okay, get the hell out and come back in half an hour. How does a 6-year-old girl know the 2 most important things of being successful is asking questions and, well, she wasn't listening, but asking questions and being persistent. And I just wish I would have had it on tape. And it wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks later when I realized what it was that allowed them to do this. It's the books we read our children. I remember very distinctly, my 2 oldest ones were in bed, and I used to read to them every night before bedtime, and I was reading to them the sales and marketing book called Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. How many of you have read this marketing book? Let me tell you this story about this book for those of you who aren't familiar with it. This is a great sales book. I highly recommend you get it. We have 2 main characters. This is the cat in the hat. This is the customer, if you will. There's a salesperson whose name is Sam I Am. That's right. They have a new product introduction. It's a food item. It's green eggs and ham. Now, they don't quite bring out exactly why it's green. It might be an Irish promotion, or who knows. Maybe they just left it there too long. I don't know. But they got to get this guy here. This is the center of influence, this cat guy. And if he will just try, no, he doesn't have to buy them. He just has to try them. He wants them to try it. And if he tries it, he figures, great. So he uses a technique called the choice close. Now, the choice close is a very old technique. I don't like it too much because pretty much everyone's onto it. But for a 6-year-old, it's really brilliant. He uses the choice close. He gives them 2 choices, either of which is a yes. You know, like, well, you want delivery on Tuesday or Thursday. If they choose either one, you got the deal, right? So he does that. Would you eat them here or there? But he objects. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them Sam I Am. That's a major objection. Most people would quit. Not Sam. He comes back with another. Would you eat them in a house or would you eat them with a mouse? And he objects again. I would not eat them in a house. I would not eat them with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them Sam I Am. And he objects again and again and again, and a train in the rain and a fox in the box. It goes on and on and on. Guess how many times? Yes, 16 times. And finally, at the end of the book, he goes, okay, if you leave me alone, you don't bother me anymore, I will try your green eggs and ham. And guess what? He tries them, and what happens? He likes them. And because he likes them, what's he going to do? Eat them all the time. Repeat business. And then you know he's going to tell all his friends about it. You want referral business? He's got Horton, the Grinch, Clifford the big red dog, Barney. I hate Barney. And he's going to build his entire center of influence. And kids have no fear of rejection, maybe forever. Well, actually till their early teens when they use the same exact technique. Well, would you like to go with me Friday night or Saturday night? Neither, geek. And they learn about rejection and get a job as a speaker. Now, controlling a conversation, communicating in this fashion of not talking is very, very hard. And I realize that. It's something you have to practice. It's not a natural thing, especially for the people in this room. You're the cream of the crop, the salespeople, the marketing people. Okay, you want to get your message out there. But we have to force ourselves not to talk in order to be more effective. So we're going to do an exercise. This exercise is called hot potato. And here's how it works. We're going to pick a fun subject we can all talk about for 2 whole minutes. Okay? And you're going to pair off. And we could do this. Well, we'll do it. I think we'll do it we'll do it seated. Okay. We'll pair them off. You're going to pick something that you can use for a hot potato. So let's say it's, whose is this? That's mine. That's yours. Okay. So let's say this is the hot potato. And in order for me to get rid of the hot potato, and your name?
Travis.
Travis. Nice to meet you. Travis, ahead of the group.
Hi, group.
Group, say it to Travis.
Hi, Travis.
Yeah, I know I was at that meeting somewhere. Okay, anyway. So the only way for me to get rid of my hot potato is to ask Travis a question. How you doing? Now I can get rid of it. Now, it's hurting him. This is 350 degrees. It's burning. It hurts. It's hot. Now, in order for him to do this, he's got to do 2 things. One, he's got to answer my question. Can't ignore my question. He's got to answer it, and then he's got to follow up with a question.
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, notice he didn't take a lot of time. When this is hurting, we don't want to sit there and give you our life story. I'm fine. How you enjoying yourself? I'm free. So whenever I ask the question, the hot potato is on the other person. The whole idea is to keep it on the other person. The more you get them to talk, the more successful you will be. Do we understand each other? So I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I need you to do. Everyone get a partner real quick. Just identify a partner. Okay? Now, look at your partner. Oh, first, before we do that, we need a subject. What can we talk about? Hey, quiet. I'm in charge. What's a fun subject we could talk about for 2 whole minutes? Give me some ideas. Obamacare. I have more books.
That won't last 2 minutes.
Yeah. What else? Sex. No, I need at least 2 minutes. What else? Come on, give me a... Vacations. Okay, vacations. Good. And it can go any direction, so we'll do vacations. Now, look at your partner. The one who would begin the exercise is the one who's better dressed. Okay, you figure that out. Now, grab something you can use for a hot potato, a soda, whatever you have. You can use mine. That's fine. Just don't drink out of it. Now, listen up. Now, I'm going to give you some more instructions. Now, I'm going to say go, and I'm going to say stop. When I say go, the person's better dressed. Obviously, in your case, you are. Okay, so use my book. Okay, fine. You can rent that. Now, so you will start by, have you been on any vacations lately? No, I haven't. Have you? It goes back and forth, back and forth. This is going to go on for a minute. And when I yell stop, the person holding the hot potato loses. At that point, your partner reaches across and slaps you in the face. Not hard, it's just a love tap. Okay? So the object is answer and then respond again with your question as fast as you can because you don't want to be caught with the hot potato, which means less talking, not more talking. Okay? Topic is vacations. Better dress begin. On your mark, get set, go.
Arizona.
Stop! Who are my losers? Hey, this is something we'll practice. Also, one of your homework assignments, I want you to echo somebody, not from this room, but when you get home tonight, practice the echo technique. That's something that will really work. The echo technique. Don't use it on me, because I know what's going to happen at the end of the seminar. You're going to come up to me and you're going to start echoing. I'm on to you. So don't. But here's what's going to happen, though. When you start echoing people, After about the fourth or fifth time when it's working, you're going to start laughing. You know, I swear, you're going to say, "Oh, Jeff said you'd do that." So don't do that, because that sort of ruins the whole thing. Okay. So now there's one other exercise that we have to do, which is very important, because all the techniques we use, the communication techniques we use, are useless if we can't deliver after we make a promise. And especially if we're selling something. Okay, and we get a customer, we go through all that work to get someone to buy from us, just to have somebody back at the office mess it up for us. So we always have to treat the customer with respect. And that is, when the customer, I'm talking about anybody whom you have conversations with. When I say customer or client, I'm talking universally now. Even though I have a marketing and sales background, we want to adapt this to everything, remember, because it applies. So here's what I want you to do. We have a technique that you're going to practice. And it's very, very simple. Now, in order for this to work, I need everyone to be very, very quiet while I give you the directions. And I need you to stand up. Only takes a second. Just everybody stand up for just a moment. I need you to face the partner, same one you had before, but no talking. No talking. Just look at your partner. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to count to 3. And when I reach 3, I want you to look at your partner. Then at the top of your lungs, yell, "What the hell do you want?" 1, 2, 3. What the hell do you want? You guys have had practice of this one, haven't you? Part 2 might be a little more difficult for this group. This time I'm going to count to 3, and when I reach 3, I want you to look at your partner longingly. With your most sincere voice, your most sincere smile, say, "Hi there, how may I be of service?" This may take 5 or 6 tries. 1, 2, 3. I thought so. Sit down. You need some work.
With him, it needs lots of work.
Needs lots of work. So we go into the next section, and that is this. Your reputation. When we're talking about communication, the thing that can destroy us is reputation. If you don't make good on your promises. Remember, in this society, at this point in time now, everything you do is being monitored. Not just by the NSA, but by everybody. And it's going to end up on YouTube. It's going to end up on the internet. We can't afford to have a bad day, because it's not just with the one person we're having the bad day with, it's with everybody. You provide poor service, thousands, not just one person knows about it now, tens of thousands of people know about it now. It's a different ballgame. I can't caution you enough. And that's why when we think about communicating, we also have to think about even when we don't feel like it. It's the serious nature of this. Bad behavior can go viral. It happens time and time again. And the last thing, when you're talking to somebody, there's no such thing as off the record. Now, it used to be, we used to use that just for dealing with the press. But anybody is the press now. Anybody with a blog or a website can also do damage to your reputation. And people will decide whether to buy or not buy, to believe or not believe, based on your reputation.